You're waiting for better circumstances, more money, more time, more resources, more connections, more knowledge, more experience, better timing. You're waiting for conditions to improve before you start pursuing your goals. Meanwhile, time passes. Opportunities slip away. Your dreams stay dreams. Your potential stays unrealized. All because you're waiting for a perfect starting point that will never arrive. Here's the truth you need to accept. There will never be perfect conditions. There will never be ideal circumstances. There will never be a moment when everything aligns perfectly and starting feels easy. The people who achieve significant things don't wait for perfect conditions. They start where they are. They work with what they have. They make do with limited resources. They begin before they're ready. They figure things out along the way. This is the difference between people who achieve and people who wait. Not talent, not luck, not advantages, just the willingness to start from wherever they are, with whatever they have. Think about where you are right now. Maybe you don't have much money. Maybe you lack certain skills. Maybe you're starting later than you wish. Maybe you're dealing with challenging circumstances. Maybe you have obligations and limitations that make things harder. None of this means you can't start. It just means you start from where you are, not from where you wish you were. Most people make the mistake of comparing their starting point to someone else's midpoint or endpoint. They see successful people and think, they have advantages I don't have, resources I don't have, opportunities I don't have. That's why they succeeded and I can't. This thinking is both wrong and paralyzing. It's wrong because most successful people started with less than you think. Their current resources came from starting with little and building over time. It's paralyzing because it gives you permission to not try, to stay stuck, to keep waiting for conditions that never come. What you have right now is enough to start, not enough to finish, not enough to achieve everything you want immediately, but enough to start, enough to take first steps, enough to begin building momentum that leads to more resources, more opportunities, more capabilities. This audiobook is about exactly that. Starting where you are and working with what you have. Not waiting for perfect conditions. Not making excuses about limitations. Not comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Just starting from your actual current position and making progress from there. We'll explore 10 essential principles. Accepting your actual starting point without delusion or despair. Using your current resources, however limited. Building momentum from small beginnings. Developing skills while taking action. Creating opportunities rather than waiting for them. Leveraging your unique circumstances. Making progress despite imperfect conditions. Turning limitations into advantages. Building on small wins. And sustaining forward movement from wherever you are. These aren't platitudes about staying positive. They're practical approaches to actually making progress when circumstances aren't ideal. Resources are limited. And you're starting from behind where you wish you were. But I need to be honest with you. Starting where you are is hard. It requires accepting uncomfortable truths about your current position. It means working harder than people with more advantages. It means being resourceful, creative, and persistent. It means watching others move faster because they started with more. Most people can't handle this. They'd rather wait for better conditions than struggle with current ones. They'd rather make excuses about why they can't start than figure out how they can. Can you be different? Can you accept where you are and start anyway? Can you work with what you have instead of waiting for what you don't? If yes, then progress is possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. Because here's what happens when you start where you are. You begin accumulating experience. Small at first, but it compounds. You start building resources. Limited initially, but they grow. You create opportunities through action that never come through waiting. You develop capabilities that can't be developed through preparation alone. 6 months from now, you'll be somewhere. The question is, will you be 6 months of progress ahead? Or will you be in the same place, still waiting for better conditions? A year from now, will you have built something substantial from humble beginnings? Or will you have another year of excuses about why you couldn't start? 5 years from now, will you look back at today as the turning point when you stopped waiting and started building? Or will you still be waiting for that perfect moment? Right now, you're probably thinking of all the reasons why your current circumstances make starting difficult. Money is tight, time is limited, skills are lacking, resources are scarce, responsibilities are heavy, obstacles are real, all true, and all irrelevant to whether you start or not. People with worse circumstances than yours have started and succeeded. People with fewer resources have built more. People with greater obstacles have achieved bigger things. Not because their circumstances improved, because they stopped waiting for circumstances to improve and started working with what they had. This is your opportunity. Not to wait for better conditions, but to start creating them. Not to wish for more resources, but to leverage the ones you have. Not to compare your beginning to others' middles, but to focus on your own next step forward. The question isn't whether your current circumstances are ideal. They're not. The question is whether you'll start anyway. Start where you are. Learn to work with what you have. Build from your actual current position, not your imagined ideal one. Let's learn exactly how to do that. Let's turn your current circumstances, however limited, into your launching point. Let's stop waiting and start building. Your journey begins from exactly where you are right now. Not from where you wish you were, from where you actually are. Accept it. Embrace it. Start building from it. Start where you are. Work with what you have. Create progress from your current reality. Chapter 1. Accept your actual starting point. The first and most crucial step is accepting your actual starting point. Not the starting point you wish you had. Not the starting point others have. Your actual, real, current starting point, with all its limitations and disadvantages. Most people can't do this. They spend so much energy resenting where they are that they have no energy left to move forward from there. They compare their beginning to others' middles. They focus on what they lack instead of what they have. They're stuck in if only thinking. If only I had started earlier. If only I had more money. If only I had better connections. If only circumstances were different. All this wishing and comparing and resenting accomplishes nothing. It doesn't change where you are. It doesn't create resources you don't have. It doesn't make your circumstances better. It just keeps you stuck, bitter, and inactive. Let me tell you what acceptance means. It means looking at your current situation honestly, really honestly, without sugarcoating or catastrophizing. You have certain resources. You lack others. You have certain advantages. You face certain obstacles. This is reality. Not good or bad. Just real. When you're 25 and starting a career, that's your starting point. Not ideal compared to someone who started at 20, but it's your reality. Work with it. When you have $500 to invest, that's your starting point. Not much compared to someone with $50,000, but it's what you have. Use it. When you're changing careers at 40, that's your starting point. Later than you wish. But it's where you are. Begin there. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean giving up or settling. It means clearly seeing reality so you can work with it effectively. You can't navigate from where you wish you were. You can only navigate from where you actually are. Think about using a GPS. If you input your actual current location, you get useful directions. If you input where you wish you were, the directions are useless. Same with life. Accept your actual starting point, and you can chart a real path forward. Deny it, and you're operating with false information that leads nowhere. Here's how to practice acceptance. First, take inventory without judgment. What resources do you actually have? Money, time, skills, connections, tools, space, support. Write them down. However limited they seem, they're real. Second, acknowledge your limitations honestly. What don't you have? What obstacles do you face? What makes this harder for you than for others? Be honest, but don't dwell. Third, stop comparing to others. Their starting point is irrelevant to your journey. You're not competing with them. You're working from your own circumstances. Let me give you some perspective. Most successful people started with less than you think. They rarely had ideal circumstances. They usually had significant limitations, but they accepted where they were and started building from there. The resources they have now came from starting with little and accumulating over time. You're seeing their current position, not their starting position. There's a story I love about a musician who wanted to record an album but couldn't afford a professional studio. Instead of waiting until he could, he accepted his limitation and recorded in his bedroom with cheap equipment. The quality wasn't perfect, but the work was done. That imperfect album launched his career. Years later, with money and resources, he could have recorded anywhere, but he'd never have gotten there if he'd waited for ideal conditions at the beginning. You might be thinking, but my circumstances are genuinely difficult. Yes, they probably are. Most people's are. Some people face extraordinarily difficult circumstances. That doesn't change the fundamental choice you face. Start from where you are or wait for where you wish you were. Acceptance also means letting go of resentment about your starting point. Maybe you started late because of circumstances beyond your control. Maybe you lack resources because of past mistakes. Maybe you're behind because of bad luck or injustice. All valid feelings. But resentment about the past doesn't help the present. It drains energy you need for moving forward. Here's what I want you to understand. Your starting point, however disadvantaged, is still a starting point. It's still a place from which you can move forward. Maybe it takes you longer to get where you're going. Maybe you have to work harder. Maybe the path is steeper. But movement is still possible. People have started from worse circumstances than yours and achieved remarkable things. Not because they had it easy, because they accepted where they were and refused to stay there. They looked at their limited resources and said, "This is enough to start." They looked at their obstacles and said, "I'll work around them." They looked at their late start and said, "Better now than never." Accept your starting point. Stop wishing it were different. Stop comparing it to others. Stop resenting the circumstances that brought you here. This is where you are. This is what you have to work with. This is where your journey begins. Once you truly accept this, you free up enormous mental and emotional energy. Energy previously spent on resentment, comparison, and wishing can now be directed toward action, creativity, and problem-solving. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's clearing away illusions so you can see the real path forward. Look at where you are right now. Really look. See it clearly, with all its limitations and possibilities. This is your starting point. Not ideal, maybe not fair, but real. And real is what you work with. Accept your actual starting point. Stop fighting reality. Start working with it. This is where your progress begins. Chapter 2. Use your current resources. However limited, you have resources right now. Not as many as you'd like. Not as much as others have. But you have something. And something is enough to start. The mistake most people make is focusing on resources they don't have, rather than leveraging resources they do have. They think about the money they lack, the time they don't have, the skills they haven't developed, the connections they're missing. All this focus on absence accomplishes nothing except making them feel inadequate and unable to start. Instead, focus on presence. What do you actually have? However small, however limited, what resources are available to you right now? Let's start with time. You might think you have no time, but that's rarely true. What you mean is you don't have as much time as you'd like, or as much as others seem to have. But you have some time. Maybe it's 30 minutes before work. Maybe it's an hour in the evening. Maybe it's weekend mornings. Find it. Protect it. Use it. 30 minutes daily is enough to start many things. It's not ideal, but it's real. The question isn't whether you have abundant time. It's whether you'll use the limited time you have productively or waste it wishing you had more. Now, money. You probably don't have much. Maybe you're barely getting by. Maybe you have a little saved but not much to spare. This limits some options, yes, but it doesn't eliminate all options. Many valuable things can be started with little or no money. Skills can be learned for free online. Side businesses can be started with minimal investment. Creative projects need more time than money. Network can be built through genuine relationships, not purchases. The question isn't whether you have abundant money. It's whether you'll let lack of money be an excuse for complete inaction. Skills are another resource. You have some skills right now. Maybe not the exact skills you need for your ultimate goal, but you have capabilities. You can read. You can write. You can communicate. You can learn. You can practice. You can improve. These basic capabilities are enough to start developing more specific skills. Too many people wait to start until they have complete mastery. But skills develop through doing, not through preparation. You develop writing skills by writing, not by preparing to write. You develop business skills by building a business, not by reading about business. Your current skill level is enough to begin. You'll develop more skills in the process. You also have access to information. We live in an era of unprecedented free access to knowledge. Almost anything you want to learn is available online for free or cheap. This is a resource previous generations didn't have. Use it. Whatever you don't know, you can learn. Whatever skill you lack, you can develop. Consider your relationships and connections. You might not have powerful connections or influential friends, but you have some relationships. Family, friends, colleagues, acquaintances. These are resources, not for exploitation, but for mutual support and growth. One person in your network might know something useful, might make an introduction, might offer advice or encouragement. You don't need a massive network. You need to use the network you have. You also have yourself, your energy, your effort, your creativity, your persistence. These cost nothing but are valuable beyond measure. When resources are limited, personal qualities become more important. Work ethic compensates for lack of money. Creativity compensates for lack of tools. Persistence compensates for lack of advantages. Let me tell you about resourcefulness. This is the skill of accomplishing things with limited resources. It's solving problems creatively when you can't solve them with money. It's finding alternative paths when the direct path requires resources you lack. Resourcefulness is a skill that develops through practice. The more you work with limited resources, the better you become at leveraging what you have. People with abundant resources often don't develop this skill. They solve problems by throwing money at them. When they face situations where money doesn't help, they're lost. You're developing a capability they'll never have. The ability to accomplish things with little. This becomes a permanent advantage. Think about what you have access to that you're not using. A local library with free resources and internet access. Free online courses and tutorials. Community spaces where you can work or meet people. Free tools and software that do 90% of what expensive alternatives do. These are real resources sitting unused while you wish you had more. Here's a principle that matters. Use what you have before worrying about what you don't have. Max out your current resources before deciding you need more. Most people use maybe 20% of their available resources while focusing on the 80% they lack. Use your full 100% first. If you have an hour a day, use that hour fully before complaining you need more time. If you have $100 to invest, invest it wisely before worrying about needing $1,000. If you have basic skills, develop them fully before deciding you need advanced training. There's also this truth. Using your current resources often generates more resources. Starting a side business with a little money can generate more money. Using your limited time productively can create opportunities that give you more time. Leveraging small connections often leads to bigger connections. Resources compound when used, but stay static when hoarded or ignored. I want you to do something right now. List your actual resources. Your real-time availability this week. Your actual money that could be invested or used. Your genuine skills, even basic ones. Your real connections, even if not powerful. Your access to information, tools, and spaces. Your personal qualities and capabilities. Look at that list. It's not nothing. It's not ideal or abundant, but it's not nothing. This is what you have to work with. This is enough to start. Not enough to finish, but enough to begin. And beginning generates more resources for continuing. Stop focusing on what you lack. Start leveraging what you have. Use your limited resources fully before deciding they're inadequate. You'll be surprised what can be accomplished with little when that little is used well. Use your current resources, however limited. Leverage what you have. Build from there. Resources grow through use, not through waiting. Chapter 3. Build momentum from small beginnings. Everything significant starts small. Every business began with an idea and first action. Every fortune began with first dollar earned or saved. Every skill mastery began with clumsy first attempts. Every achievement began with modest first steps. The mistake is thinking you need to start big, that your first moves need to be impressive, that unless you can make dramatic progress immediately, it's not worth starting. This thinking keeps you stuck because you'll never have the resources to start big. Start small instead. Start with what you can do today, with what you have today. Take small actions that move you incrementally forward. Build momentum gradually, rather than trying to create it all at once. Momentum works like physics. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. When you're stuck, paralyzed by the size of your goal and the limitation of your resources, you're at rest. Getting in motion, even slow motion, changes everything. Small action creates small momentum. Small momentum makes next action easier. Next action creates more momentum. More momentum enables bigger actions. This compounds over time. What starts tiny becomes substantial through accumulation. Let me give you examples. Want to write a book? You don't start by writing a book. You start by writing one page, then another, then another. Small beginning. But a page daily becomes 365 pages yearly, which is more than most books. Want to build a business? You don't start with a company. You start with one customer, one sale, one service delivered. Small beginning. But first, customer leads to second, which leads to referrals, which builds a customer base. Want to transform your health? You don't start by becoming an athlete. You start with one workout, one healthy meal, one good choice. Small beginning. But consistent small choices accumulate into transformed health over time. The key is consistency with small actions. One workout doesn't matter. 100 workouts transforms your fitness. One saved dollar doesn't matter. 1,000 saved dollars creates an emergency fund. 1 hour of learning doesn't matter. 1,000 hours of learning creates expertise. Small beginnings only work if they continue. This is where most people fail. They start small, which is good, but they stop after a few days or weeks, before momentum really builds. Starting small is easy. Continuing small actions consistently is hard. Here's how to maintain small beginnings. First, make them sustainable. Choose actions you can maintain long-term. Don't start with 2-hour daily workouts if you can barely find 30 minutes. Start with 15 minutes. Sustainable trumps impressive. Second, remove barriers. Make the small action as easy as possible. Prepare the night before. Eliminate decision points. Reduce friction. The easier it is, the more likely you'll do it consistently. Third, track your progress. Mark off each day you complete your small action. Watching the streak grow creates motivation to continue. You don't want to break a 30-day streak. Fourth, celebrate small wins. Each day you complete your action is a win. Acknowledge it. Don't dismiss it as insignificant. Small wins, acknowledged, become momentum. Let me tell you what happens when you build momentum from small beginnings. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. Your actions are so small compared to your goal. Progress is barely visible. This is when most people quit. They think, this tiny action isn't making a difference. Why bother? But if you push through this phase, something shifts. Around week 3 or 4, you notice momentum. The action becomes easier, more automatic. You start seeing small results. The compound effect begins appearing. By month 2 or 3, progress becomes obvious. What felt impossible now feels achievable. By 6 months, the accumulated effect of small, consistent actions is dramatic. You've built something substantial from tiny beginnings. You've proven to yourself that starting small and continuing consistently works. There's also psychological momentum that builds alongside practical momentum. Each small action is evidence that you can follow through, that you can commit, that you're capable. This evidence builds confidence. Confidence enables bigger actions. Bigger actions create bigger results. The upward spiral continues. Think about compound interest. A penny doubled daily doesn't seem like much at first. Day 1, 1 cent. Day 2, 2 cents. Day 10, $5. Still unimpressive. But day 20, $5,000. Day 30, $5 million. The growth is exponential. But it starts tiny and feels insignificant for a long time. Your small actions work the same way. Early results are unimpressive, but if you maintain consistency, the compound effect kicks in. Results accelerate. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable. I want you to identify one small action you can take today toward your goal. Not impressive, not dramatic, just small and doable with your current resources and time. Maybe it's 15 minutes of work on your project. Maybe it's reaching out to one person. Maybe it's learning one small thing. Maybe it's saving $5. Small, achievable, real. Do that action today. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Don't evaluate results for 30 days. Just maintain consistency. After 30 days, look at what you've built. It won't be complete, but it will be real. You'll have momentum. That momentum makes the next 30 days easier. Most people never start because they can't start big. You're going to start anyway because you're willing to start small. They'll be stuck at the starting line while you're 30 days into your journey. A year from now, they'll still be waiting for conditions to start big. You'll have a year of momentum behind you, with substantial progress made from small beginnings. Build momentum from small beginnings. Take tiny actions consistently. Trust the compound effect. Let small accumulate into significant. Chapter 4. Develop skills while taking action. You don't need to master skills before starting. You develop skills by starting. This is one of the most important things to understand about working with what you have. Most people think the sequence is learn, then do. Get the skills first, then take action. Become competent, then attempt something meaningful. This seems logical, but it's backwards. The real sequence is do, then learn. Take action, then develop skills through that action. Attempt things before you're ready, then become competent through attempting. Think about how you learned to walk. You didn't master walking before trying. You fell down repeatedly while learning. You developed walking skills by walking badly until you walked well. Same with talking, reading, and every other skill you have. You learned through doing, not before doing. As an adult, we forget this. We think we need complete preparation before action. We need to take the course, read the books, watch the tutorials, practice in safety before trying for real. All this preparation feels productive but often just delays starting. Here's the truth. Most skills develop faster through real application than through isolated practice. Learning to code by building actual projects teaches you more than courses alone. Learning business by starting an actual business teaches you more than business school. Learning to write by writing things people read teaches you more than writing exercises. Real application has stakes. There are consequences for failure. This creates motivation and focus that isolated practice lacks. You learn faster because you have to. You're solving real problems, not hypothetical ones. The feedback is immediate and honest. Let me be clear. I'm not saying preparation is useless. Basic knowledge helps. Tutorials teach useful techniques. Courses provide structure. But these are supplements to action, not prerequisites for it. Learn what you need to start, then start. Learn more while doing. The doing itself becomes the primary teacher. This is especially important when resources are limited. If you wait until you can afford comprehensive training before starting, you might wait forever. If you start with basic free knowledge and learn more while building, you can make progress immediately. There's also this reality. You don't know what you don't know until you start doing. You think you know what skills you'll need, but you're often wrong. Real projects reveal unexpected requirements and unexpected solutions. Planning from outside gives you false confidence about what will be needed. Only doing reveals the truth. So start with your current skill level. However basic, it's enough to begin. You'll need to figure things out. Yes, you'll make mistakes. Absolutely. You'll face your incompetence directly. Definitely. All of this is part of learning. All of this develops skills faster than careful preparation. Here's how to approach skill development while acting. First, embrace beginner status. You're going to be bad at first. Accept it. Everyone is bad initially. The difference between people who gain skills and people who don't is willingness to be bad while learning. Second, solve problems as they arise. Don't try to learn everything in advance. When you encounter a problem doing real work, that's when you learn the skill to solve it. Just-in-time learning is more efficient than just-in-case learning. Third, seek feedback from reality. Real work provides real feedback. If something doesn't work, you know immediately. If something works, you see results. This feedback teaches faster than any instructor. Fourth, iterate rapidly. Do something, see results, adjust, repeat. Each cycle develops skills. The faster you cycle, the faster you learn. Fifth, focus on application, not theory. Learn concepts by using them, not by studying them. If you're learning a programming language, build something with it. If you're learning marketing, market something. Theory without application is forgotten quickly. Application without theory still creates useful learning. Let me give you perspective on skill development timelines. You don't need years to become competent enough to create value. You need weeks or months of focused application. You can learn enough programming in 3 months to build useful things. You can learn enough writing in 3 months to create valuable content. You can learn enough business skills in 3 months to generate your first income. Mastery takes longer, yes. But you don't need mastery to start creating value. You need basic competence. Basic competence comes quickly when you're learning through doing rather than preparing to do. There's also this. Your unique combination of skills matters more than depth in one skill. You don't need to be world-class at anything. You need to be good enough at several things and combine them usefully. A person decent at writing, basic at marketing, and competent at one technical skill has a valuable combination. None individually would be impressive, but together they enable creating and delivering value. This is accessible to you right now. You probably have basic competence in some areas already. You can learn basic competence in new areas quickly through focused application. Within months, you can assemble a combination of skills useful for your goals. Stop waiting until you're fully skilled to start. Start now with your current skills and develop more skills in the process. Every project you complete, however imperfect, develops capabilities. Every problem you solve teaches you something. Every mistake corrects your understanding. This learning through doing is faster and more permanent than learning through study. I want you to commit to this approach. Identify what you want to build or create. Assess your current relevant skills honestly. They're probably more than 0 but less than you'd like. That's fine. Start building or creating with what you have. When you hit skill gaps, learn just enough to proceed. Keep building. Keep learning. Let the building drive the learning. In 6 months, you'll have built something real and developed valuable skills. The person who spent 6 months preparing will have knowledge but no results. You'll have both results and knowledge gained through application. Develop skills while taking action. Learn by doing. Build competence through application. Let real projects be your teacher. Chapter 5. Create opportunities rather than wait for them. Opportunities don't just appear. They're created through action. You don't wait for the right opportunity. You make opportunities through initiative, effort, and visibility. This is crucial to understand when starting where you are with limited resources. You probably don't have opportunities handed to you. You don't have connections opening doors. You don't have advantages creating options. If you wait for opportunities to appear, you'll wait forever. Instead, you create them. You make things happen rather than waiting for things to happen. You actively generate possibilities rather than passively hoping for them. Let me explain what I mean. Creating opportunities means making yourself visible, sharing your work publicly, showing what you're building, demonstrating your capabilities. Opportunities come to people who are visible, not people who are hidden working in private until perfect. If you're developing a skill, share your progress. If you're building something, document the process. If you're learning something, teach what you know. This visibility attracts opportunities. People see your work and reach out. Connections form. Possibilities emerge. None of this happens if you're invisible. Creating opportunities also means being proactive. Reach out to people, ask questions, offer value, make proposals. Most people wait to be approached. You approach others instead. This immediately sets you apart and creates possibilities that waiting never would. Here's an example. You want to work in a certain field, but have no experience. Waiting for someone to hire you despite lack of experience means waiting forever. Creating opportunity means building something, demonstrating your capability, even without being hired. Build a portfolio project. Solve a problem relevant to the field. Create something valuable. Then show it to people in the field. You've created opportunity through demonstration rather than waiting for someone to give you a chance. Let me tell you about networking differently. Most people think networking is about meeting important people who can help them. This is partially true but incomplete. Real networking is about genuine relationships based on mutual value. When you have limited resources and connections, you can't offer money or influence, but you can offer effort, knowledge, perspective, and genuine interest. Reach out to people not to extract value but to provide it. Share something useful. Ask thoughtful questions. Offer help with something. Create content that might interest them. This approach builds real relationships that create opportunities over time. Creating opportunities also means saying yes to things that might not seem perfect. Someone offers you a chance to help with something. It's not your dream project, but it's relevant. Say yes. Every experience creates capabilities and connections. Every project leads to other projects. Every person you work with knows other people. Opportunities compound when you seize small ones, rather than holding out for perfect ones. There's this reality. Good opportunities often look mediocre at first. Only in hindsight do you see how they connected to bigger things. The project that seemed like small work led to a connection that led to a major opportunity. The person you helped casually became a crucial relationship years later. You can't predict which opportunities will prove most valuable, so you engage with many. Let me talk about creating opportunities through problem solving. Every problem someone faces is a potential opportunity for you. If you can solve problems others face, you create value. Create value, and opportunities follow. People pay for solutions. People recommend problem solvers. People remember who helped them. Look for problems in your field of interest. Small problems that bigger players ignore. Problems that affect people but have no good solution. Then, solve them, even if imperfectly. Put the solution out there. This creates opportunity, because you're now the person who solved that problem. This works even with limited resources. You don't need massive capabilities to solve small problems. You need creativity, effort, and willingness to try. Solve enough small problems and people notice. Opportunities emerge from being known as someone who solves problems. Creating opportunities through content is powerful. Write about what you're learning. Create tutorials. Share insights. Document your process. This serves multiple purposes. It clarifies your own thinking. It demonstrates knowledge to others. It makes you discoverable to people searching for information. It builds your reputation gradually. Content creates opportunities constantly. Someone reads your article and reaches out. Someone finds your tutorial and hires you. Someone follows your journey and introduces you to someone. All opportunities created through visibility. Here's something important. Creating opportunities feels uncomfortable initially. You're putting yourself out there. You're reaching out cold to people. You're sharing imperfect work. You're asking for things. This discomfort keeps most people passive. They wait for opportunities rather than creating them because creating them requires courage. Push through the discomfort. The worst that happens is nothing. Someone doesn't respond. Someone rejects your pitch. Someone criticizes your work. These outcomes don't harm you. But sometimes people do respond. Someone does say yes. Someone does value your work. These create opportunities that passivity never would. I want you to commit to actively creating opportunities. Choose one approach to start with. Maybe it's sharing your work publicly. Maybe it's reaching out to 10 people in your field. Maybe it's solving a small problem and putting the solution online. Maybe it's saying yes to a project that seems small. Do it. Then do it again. Keep creating opportunities actively rather than waiting passively. In 6 months, you'll have generated more opportunities than people who waited for perfect opportunities to appear. Some of those opportunities will lead places you can't predict. All of them teach you and build your confidence in creating more. Create opportunities rather than wait for them. Take initiative. Make yourself visible. Solve problems. Build relationships. Generate possibilities through action. Chapter 6. Leverage your unique circumstances. Your circumstances seem like disadvantages, limited resources, unusual background, non-traditional path, different perspective, geographic location, age, whatever makes your situation different from the ideal. But here's what most people miss. Your unique circumstances, properly leveraged, become advantages. What seems like limitation can be differentiation. What seems like disadvantage can be unique value proposition. Let me explain. When everyone follows the traditional path, they all look the same. They have similar credentials, similar experiences, similar perspectives. They compete directly with each other. But someone with a different path, different background, different circumstances, brings something distinct. This distinction creates value. Think about geographic location. Maybe you're not in a major city where opportunities concentrate. This seems like a disadvantage. But it also means lower cost of living, which extends your runway when building something. It means less competition in your local market. It means unique perspective on problems people in major cities don't see. These can be leveraged. Or, age. Maybe you're starting something later than typical. This seems disadvantageous. But it also means more life experience, more perspective, more emotional maturity, better understanding of how the world works. Younger people have energy and time. Older people have wisdom and judgment. Both have value. Leverage yours. Or background. Maybe you don't come from the right industry or field, but your different background gives you cross-pollination of ideas. You see solutions people deeply embedded in one field miss. You ask questions insiders don't think to ask. You bring fresh perspective precisely because you're an outsider. Or resources. Limited resources force creativity. When you can't throw money at problems, you find clever solutions. You develop resourcefulness others don't have. You learn to do more with less. These capabilities become permanent advantages even when you eventually have more resources. Let me tell you about constraint-based innovation. Some of the best innovations came from severe constraints. Musicians created new genres with limited equipment. Artists created new styles with limited materials. Entrepreneurs built successful businesses with no money. The constraint forced creativity that abundance would have prevented. Your constraints are similar. They force you to think differently, to find unconventional solutions, to do things in ways others wouldn't consider. This often leads to better approaches than having abundant resources would. Here's how to leverage your unique circumstances. First, identify what makes your situation different. Not to complain about it, but to understand it clearly. What do you have that others don't? What don't you have that others do? What's your unusual angle or perspective? Second, reframe differences as potential advantages. Limited budget becomes resourcefulness training. Late start becomes life experience leverage. Unusual background becomes cross-industry perspective. Different location becomes underserved market access. Third, look for problems your circumstances help you solve. Your unique situation probably makes you aware of problems others don't see. A problem you face is likely faced by others in similar circumstances. Solve it for yourself and you can solve it for others. Fourth, find others in similar circumstances. You're not alone. Others share your constraints and situation. They're a natural audience or community. Serve them specifically rather than trying to serve everyone. Fifth, tell your story. Your different path makes for interesting narrative. People connect with authentic stories, more than polished credentials. Share how you're building despite or because of your circumstances. This attracts people who resonate with your journey. Let me give you examples of leveraging unique circumstances. Someone starting a business with no money documented the entire process of building without investment. This transparency attracted an audience who wanted to learn the same thing. The limitation became the unique value. Someone from a rural area created products serving rural communities that urban-focused companies ignored. The location that seemed disadvantageous was actually access to an underserved market. Someone changing careers at 45 wrote about the experience for others considering midlife transitions. The late start that seemed like disadvantage became valuable perspective others needed. Someone with uncommon combination of backgrounds solved problems at the intersection that specialists in either field missed. The unusual path was the unique capability. Your circumstances have similar potential. You just need to stop seeing them purely as obstacles and start seeing them as differentiation. What makes your situation harder in some ways makes it more interesting in others. What limits your options in one direction opens unique options in another direction. Think about your target audience. If you're trying to reach everyone, your unique circumstances are limitations. But if you focus on people in similar circumstances, or people who value what your circumstances provide, they become strengths. Rural location limits big city opportunities but provides authentic connection to rural markets. Limited budget restricts expensive approaches but demonstrates accessible paths others can follow. Unconventional background limits traditional opportunities but attracts people tired of traditional approaches. Your circumstances also teach you things others don't learn. If you're building with severe resource constraints, you're learning efficiency and creativity that people with abundant resources never develop. If you're starting from behind, you're learning resilience and determination that easy paths don't require. These learned capabilities become permanent advantages. I want you to think about your unique circumstances differently. Stop seeing them only as obstacles to overcome. Start seeing them as angles to leverage. What's different about your situation? Who else shares this situation? What problems does it make you aware of? What capabilities does it force you to develop? How can these become advantages rather than just limitations? Document your journey from your unique circumstances. Your different path makes for compelling story others can learn from. Build for people in similar situations who need solutions you're discovering. Use your constraints to force innovative approaches others wouldn't consider. Your circumstances will never be ideal. Stop waiting for them to be. Leverage what's unique about them instead. Turn your differentiation into advantage. Build from where you actually are, with what makes your situation distinct. Leverage your unique circumstances. Transform differences into advantages. Use your distinct situation as strategic asset, rather than just obstacle to overcome. Chapter 7. Make progress. Despite imperfect conditions, conditions will never be perfect. There will always be obstacles. Resources will always be less than ideal. Circumstances will always present challenges. If you wait for perfect conditions, you wait forever. The question isn't whether conditions are perfect. They're not and won't be. The question is whether you'll make progress anyway. Despite imperfection, despite obstacles, despite less than ideal circumstances, this is what separates people who achieve from people who don't, not better conditions. Different response to imperfect conditions. Achievers proceed despite imperfection. Non-achievers wait for perfection that never comes. Let me tell you about perfectionism, disguised as preparation. Many people claim they're preparing to start, but they're actually avoiding starting by endlessly preparing. I'll start when I have more money. I'll begin when I finish this course. I'll launch when I have more time. These sound reasonable, but they're perfectionism, waiting for conditions that would make starting easier. But starting isn't supposed to be easy. Building something significant isn't comfortable. If it were, everyone would do it. The difficulty is part of the process, not something to eliminate before starting. Here's what progress despite imperfect conditions looks like. You start your business while working full-time. Yes, it's hard. You're tired. Time is limited. But you use the time you have. You build your skill while it's still developing. Yes, your early work isn't great. But you learn through doing. You create content with basic equipment. Yes, quality isn't professional. But you publish anyway and improve over time. These approaches involve proceeding despite obvious imperfections. Not because you don't see the imperfections, because you refuse to let imperfections prevent progress. Think about it this way. Conditions improve through progress, not before it. When you start a business despite limited capital, that business eventually generates capital. When you create content despite basic equipment, the audience you build eventually enables better equipment. When you build skills despite current incompetence, the competence you develop creates better opportunities. Waiting for conditions to improve before starting means conditions never improve because the improvement comes through the doing. Progress creates better conditions. Better conditions don't create progress. Let me tell you about adaptive action. This means adjusting your approach to fit current conditions, rather than waiting for conditions to fit your ideal approach. You want to build a business but lack capital? Build one that doesn't require capital. You want to create content but lack professional equipment? Create content where personality matters more than production value. You want to develop skills but lack time? Focus on skills that develop quickly through intense, short practice. Adaptive action works with reality. It doesn't fight against it or wait for it to change. It finds the path that's possible now and takes it. Here's how to make progress despite imperfect conditions. First, identify what's possible now. Not what would be ideal. What's actually possible with your current resources, time, and circumstances. There's always something possible, even if it's not your ideal approach. Second, start with that possible thing. However imperfect, however small. The possible thing done beats the ideal thing delayed indefinitely. Third, improve as you go. Initial efforts won't be your best work. That's fine. Each iteration improves. Each cycle teaches. Progress accumulates. Fourth, focus on momentum, not perfection. Consistent imperfect action creates more progress than occasional perfect action. Daily small efforts beat monthly perfect efforts. Fifth, remember done is better than perfect. Finished projects, even flawed, create more value and learning than perfect projects never completed. Release things. Put them out there. Learn from reality. Iterate. Let me address a concern you might have. Won't starting with imperfect conditions produce inferior results? Initially, yes. Your early work won't be your best work. But everyone's early work is weak. The difference is some people start producing weak work and gradually improve, while others wait to be capable of producing strong work and never start at all. 5 years from now, the person who started despite imperfect conditions will have 5 years of accumulated improvement. The person who waited for perfect conditions will still be waiting. Who do you think is further ahead? Think about athletes. They don't wait until they're strong to lift weights. They start lifting with whatever strength they have and build from there. They don't wait until they're fast to run. They run at whatever pace they can and gradually improve. Progress comes through doing despite current limitations, not through waiting to overcome limitations before doing. Your creative, professional, or business endeavors work the same way. You build the capabilities through doing, not before doing. Imperfect conditions are where you start. Improved conditions are where consistent effort leads. There's also this truth. Some imperfect conditions never improve. Some obstacles persist. Some limitations remain. If you only proceed when all obstacles are removed, you never proceed. You must learn to make progress despite persistent imperfections. This isn't settling. This is realism. The world is imperfect. Resources are limited. Obstacles exist. These facts don't change. What changes is your ability to create results anyway. I want you to identify what you've been delaying because conditions aren't perfect. What project, goal, or initiative have you postponed waiting for better circumstances? Now identify what would be possible despite imperfect conditions. What version of it could you start today? Not the ideal version, the possible version. Start that version today, not tomorrow. Not when conditions improve. Today. Yes, it will be imperfect. Yes, results will be initially weak. Yes, you'll face obstacles. All true. All irrelevant to whether you start. Make progress despite imperfect conditions. Start anyway. Build anyway. Create anyway. Proceed despite obstacles. Let progress create better conditions rather than waiting for better conditions before progressing. Chapter 8. Turn limitations into advantages. Limitations seem purely negative. They restrict what you can do. They make things harder. They put you at disadvantage compared to people without those limitations. This is one way to see limitations. It's also incomplete. Limitations, properly understood and strategically leveraged, can become advantages. What constrains you in one dimension can liberate you in another. What makes certain paths impossible can make other paths more attractive. What seems like pure disadvantage can, with right perspective, become competitive edge. Let me explain how this works. Limitations force focus. When you can do anything, you often do nothing. Analysis paralysis. Too many options. No clear direction. But when limitations narrow your options, decision-making becomes easier. You can't do everything, so you must choose. This forced focus often leads to better outcomes than unlimited options would. Think about limited time. If you had unlimited time, you might spread yourself thin across many projects, none done excellently. But with limited time, you must focus on what matters most. This forces prioritization, forces efficiency, forces saying no to distractions. The limitation creates discipline that abundance doesn't require. Or limited money. With unlimited money, you might waste it on unnecessary things, on approaches that solve problems through spending rather than thinking. But with limited money, every dollar must count. You become creative. You find low-cost solutions. You do more with less. These capabilities persist even when you eventually have more money. Or limited connections. If you knew everyone, you might rely on connections rather than capabilities. But without connections, you must build genuine value, must create things that speak for themselves, must develop skills that earn opportunities. The limitation forces substance over networking. Let me tell you about the constraint advantage. Some of the most successful innovations came from severe constraints. Twitter's character limit seemed like frustration, but became its defining feature. Many successful businesses started as side projects with severe resource constraints, which forced lean operations and customer focus from the beginning. Artists with limited materials developed distinctive styles that abundance of materials would have prevented. Your limitations can work similarly. They force you to develop approaches that become your competitive advantage. Your limitation becomes your differentiation. Here's how to turn limitations into advantages. First, accept the limitation as unchangeable for now. Stop fighting it or resenting it. It exists. You must work with it. Second, ask how this limitation could force better decisions or approaches. Limited budget forces efficiency. Limited time forces focus. Limited experience forces fresh perspective. How does your specific limitation potentially improve your approach? Third, look for what the limitation makes necessary that's actually beneficial. Limited resources make it necessary to start small and test cheaply. This is actually better than having resources to launch big before validating. Limited connections make it necessary to create value that attracts opportunities. This is actually better than relying on who you know over what you produce. Fourth, find others who succeeded despite or because of similar limitations. Learn how they turned constraint into advantage. Their paths show possibilities you might not see. Fifth, communicate your limitation as strength to relevant audiences. Built with zero investment, appeals to people who also lack investment. Created while working full-time, resonates with people in same situation. Your limitation is your story and your niche. Let me give you specific examples of limitations becoming advantages. Someone couldn't afford expensive tools, so learned to create using free software. This made their techniques accessible to others, building an audience of people who appreciated free solutions. The limitation became unique value proposition. Someone lacked formal credentials, so focused on demonstrating capability through portfolio work. This made them valuable to employers, tired of credentials without demonstrated skill. The limitation forced better proof of ability. Someone lived in low-cost area instead of expensive city. This meant their business could survive on less revenue, allowing experimentation others couldn't afford. The limitation provided runway. Someone started late with less time ahead of them. This created urgency that younger people often lack. They moved faster, focused harder, wasted less time. The limitation created intensity of purpose. Someone had unusual background outside traditional path. This gave them cross-domain insights and fresh perspective that specialists missed. The limitation was actually unique angle. Your limitations have similar potential. Limited budget can mean lean operations and customer focus. Limited time can mean intense focus and high productivity. Limited experience can mean fresh perspective and willingness to challenge assumptions. Limited connections can mean value-first approach and genuine relationships. Late start can mean maturity and urgency. Unusual background can mean distinctive insights. The key is reframing. Stop seeing limitations only as obstacles. Start seeing them as forcing functions that create beneficial constraints. Yes, they make some things harder, but they make other things better. They force you to develop capabilities that people without those limitations never develop. Think about this. If you had unlimited resources, you might never develop resourcefulness. If you had all the time in the world, you might never develop focus and efficiency. If you had every advantage, you might never develop resilience and determination. Your limitations are developing capabilities in you that abundant resources wouldn't. These capabilities become permanent. Eventually, you might overcome some limitations. Your resources grow. Your time increases. Your connections expand. But the capabilities you developed while limited remain. You've been forced to become creative, focused, efficient, and resilient. These qualities persist and give you advantages others lack. I want you to list your major limitations, the constraints that make your situation harder. Then for each one, ask these questions. What does this limitation force me to do? What capabilities must I develop because of it? Who else faces this limitation that I could serve? How could this constraint lead to better approaches? What's potentially valuable about working within this limitation? You'll find that many limitations, seen differently, contain strategic advantages. They're not purely negative. They're double-edged, restricting in some ways while enabling in others. Learn to leverage the enabling edge. Turn limitations into advantages. Use constraints strategically. Develop capabilities through restrictions that abundance never requires. Let your limitations become your differentiation. Chapter 9. Build on small wins. Progress compounds when you build on it. Each win, however small, creates foundation for next win. Each success, however modest, makes next success more achievable. This building on wins creates upward trajectory from humble beginnings. But most people don't build on small wins. They dismiss them as insignificant. They minimize their achievements. They focus on how far they still have to go rather than how far they've come. This prevents them from leveraging momentum and compounds. Small wins matter more than you think. Not because they're impressive individually, but because they accumulate and each enables the next. Let me explain the psychology of small wins. Each time you achieve something, even something small, you prove to yourself that you're capable. This builds confidence. Confidence enables attempt. Attempt creates more wins. The cycle continues. But if you dismiss small wins as unworthy of acknowledgement, you break this cycle. You rob yourself of the confidence fuel that powers continued effort. Small wins also provide evidence. Evidence you can point to when doubt arises. Evidence you can show to others. Evidence that your approach works. "I've done it 5 times," carries more weight than "I think I can do it." Small wins create that evidence. Here's how to build on small wins effectively. First, acknowledge every win, no matter how small. Completed a project? Win. Made a sale? Win. Published content? Win. Had productive day? Win. Each deserves recognition. Write them down. Celebrate them privately. Don't let them pass unnoticed. Second, analyze what made the win possible. What did you do right? What approach worked? What can you repeat? Extract lessons from each win. Small wins teach just as much as big wins if you pay attention. Third, use each win to enable the next. Each completed project goes in portfolio. Each satisfied customer becomes reference. Each skill demonstration proves capability. Each win is a building block for constructing next win. Fourth, stack small wins strategically. Choose next challenges that build on previous wins. If you successfully completed a small project, take slightly larger project using skills you developed. If you made 1 sale, make 3 more, using the same approach. If you built basic competence, now build intermediate competence. Each level makes next level more achievable. Fifth, share your wins. Not to brag, but to create visibility and accountability. Sharing wins attracts opportunities. People see you're making progress and want to be part of it. Creates social momentum alongside practical momentum. Let me tell you about win streaks. A series of small wins creates powerful psychological momentum. First win feels lucky. Second win confirms it wasn't just luck. Third win establishes pattern. By 5th win, you expect to win. Expectation of winning makes winning more likely. This is how small wins build to bigger wins. The pattern establishes itself through repetition. But streaks can break. You'll face setbacks, days where nothing works, projects that fail, efforts that produce no results. This is normal and doesn't erase previous wins. The mistake is letting 1 loss cancel 10 wins in your mind. Maintain perspective. 1 loss is data, not destiny. Resume the win streak immediately. Think about compounding effects. First, win seems insignificant. 1 completed project. 1 made sale. 1 published piece. Not impressive alone. But first win leads to second. Second leads to third. By 10th, you have portfolio. By 100th, you have body of work that's genuinely impressive. None of the individual pieces seemed significant, but accumulated, they're substantial. This is why building on small wins matters. You're not trying to achieve everything in one massive effort. You're accumulating over time. Each small win adds to the pile. Eventually, the pile becomes mountain. Here are examples of building on small wins. Someone starts writing and publishes 1 article. It gets modest response. Instead of dismissing it, they analyze what worked, write another, then another. After 50 articles, they have audience. After 200, they have meaningful platform. Each article was small win. Accumulated, they built something significant. Someone starts business and gets first customer. Instead of just being grateful, they deliver excellently. Ask for referral. Document process. That leads to second customer. Second leads to third. By customer 50, they have established business. Each customer was small win that enabled next. Someone begins learning skill and completes first basic project. Instead of moving on, they share it, get feedback, improve, do second project. After 20 projects, skill is developed, portfolio exists, opportunities arise. Each project was small win, building toward competence. Your path forward involves similar building. Take first small win. Whatever you can achieve with current resources. Acknowledge it properly. Learn from it. Use it as foundation for next win. Stack wins consistently. Let them compound over time. Don't compare your small wins to others' big wins. Compare your wins to your own starting point. Are you further ahead than you were? That's what matters. Are you building momentum? That's what counts. Also, remember that everyone's big wins started as small wins. That successful business began with one customer. That influential person started with one follower. That best-selling author started with one reader. The impressive result you see now was built from small wins you don't see. You're doing the same thing. Building from small wins toward bigger results. The fact that results aren't impressive yet doesn't mean approach isn't working. It means you're early in compounding process. Stay consistent. Keep stacking wins. Trust accumulation. I want you to commit to acknowledging and building on small wins. Keep a win journal. Record every achievement, however modest. Review it when discouraged to see accumulation. Use each win as launching point for next. Design challenges that build on previous successes. Share wins to create visibility and accountability. Celebrate progress, not just destinations. 6 months of building on small wins will put you dramatically ahead of where you are now. A year of this approach will create results that seem impossible from your current position, but only if you honor the small wins instead of dismissing them. Build on small wins. Acknowledge progress. Stack successes. Let small accumulate into significant through consistent addition. Chapter 10. Sustain forward movement from wherever you are. Everything we've discussed works. Starting where you are. Using what you have. Building momentum. Developing skills. Creating opportunities. Leveraging circumstances. Making progress despite imperfection. Turning limitations into advantages. Building on small wins. All of this works if maintained. This final chapter is about sustainability. Maintaining forward movement not just initially when motivation is high, but long-term when difficulty mounts and enthusiasm fades. Because starting where you are means long journey. Quick wins are rare. Progress is gradual. Sustaining effort over time determines success more than initial intensity. Most people start strong. Initial enthusiasm carries them through first days or weeks, but enthusiasm depletes. Reality sets in. Progress is slower than hoped. Obstacles are bigger than expected. Resources remain limited. The shine wears off. This is when most people quit. Not because approach doesn't work, but because they can't sustain it through the difficult middle. You must prepare for this. Sustaining forward movement requires different mindset and strategies than starting movement. Here's what sustains forward movement. First, remember your why. Why did you start? What makes this matter? When difficulty comes, and it will, your why must be strong enough to push through. Vague motivation won't sustain you. Crystal clear purpose will. Revisit your reasons regularly. Keep them visible and present. Second, focus on process, not just outcomes. Outcomes are far away and take time. Process is immediate and controllable. Commit to process. Show up daily. Do the work. Trust that outcomes follow process consistently executed. When you focus only on outcomes, distant goals demotivate. When you focus on process, daily practice sustains momentum. Third, create rituals and routines. Willpower depletes. Motivation fluctuates. Rituals bypass both. Set specific times for specific actions. Make them non-negotiable. Your ritual carries you through days when will and motivation are low. The ritual itself becomes the commitment. Fourth, track everything. Progress is often invisible day to day but obvious month to month. Tracking makes invisible progress visible. You see that you're further ahead than you feel. Days may feel static, but your records show accumulation. This evidence sustains effort when feelings don't. Fifth, build in rest and recovery. Forward movement doesn't mean constant intensity. It means consistent direction with appropriate recovery. Burnout stops movement entirely. Sustainable pace maintains movement indefinitely. Better to move steadily for years than intensely for weeks. Sixth, adjust without quitting. Things won't go as planned. Approaches that seemed right won't work. Circumstances will change. Obstacles will appear. Adjustment is necessary. But adjustment while maintaining direction is different from quitting. Adjust strategy while keeping commitment. Try different approaches towards same goal. 7th, find community. Isolation makes sustainability harder. Others on similar journeys provide support, accountability, and perspective. You encourage each other through difficult periods. Share struggles and solutions. Community sustains when individual motivation falters. Let me talk about the messy middle. Beginning is exciting. New venture, fresh start, hopeful outlook. End is rewarding. Goal achieved, effort paid off, success realized. But the middle is hard. Long period between exciting start and rewarding end. Progress is slow. Enthusiasm has faded. End isn't in sight yet. This is where most people quit. Sustaining through messy middle requires acceptance that most of the journey happens here. It's not exciting. It's work. Consistent, often unglamorous work. Day after day, week after week, month after month. People who succeed are those who keep working through this period when nothing feels special. Here's how to handle messy middle. First, expect it. Know it's coming. It's not sign of failure or wrong path. It's normal part of every significant achievement. Second, shrink your focus. Don't think about months ahead. Focus on this week, this day, this task. Make distant goal feel closer by only looking at next step. Third, celebrate small milestones. Break journey into checkpoints. Mark progress, even when destination remains distant. Reaching checkpoint deserves recognition. Fourth, remind yourself of progress made. Look backward at how far you've come. Not just forward, at how far remains. Both perspectives matter. Fifth, vary routine slightly without changing direction. Monotony kills motivation. Small variations maintain engagement. Different approaches to same goal. Different techniques for same practice. Variety within consistency. Sixth, remember everyone else is in their own messy middle too. Those who seem to have it figured out are also dealing with challenges and doubts. You're not uniquely struggling. This is universal experience. Let me talk about sustainability frameworks. First, minimum viable effort. Identify minimum effort that maintains momentum. On bad days, do minimum. This prevents complete stops that are hard to restart. Better minimum effort consistently than maximum effort sporadically. Second, review and adjust regularly. Monthly review of what's working and what isn't. Adjust approaches. Refresh strategies. This prevents stagnation and gives sense of agency. You're actively managing your journey, not just enduring it. Third, build in rewards. Not just at end but along the way. Small rewards for milestones. Larger rewards for major progress. Rewards create positive association with difficult work and provide things to look forward to. Fourth, protect your investment. You've already invested time, effort, and resources. Quitting wastes that investment. Continuing compounds it. Remember, sunk cost in positive way. You've built something. Keep building rather than abandoning what you've started. Fifth, visualize future regularly. Not just outcome, but who you're becoming through the process. Capabilities you're developing. Character you're building. Identity you're forming. Journey transforms you even before achieving goal. Value this transformation. I want you to commit to sustainable forward movement. Not just initial burst of effort, but maintained progress over time required. Build rituals that bypass motivation. Track progress that proves accumulation. Find community that supports persistence. Accept messy middle as normal. Focus on process over outcomes. Adjust strategies while maintaining commitment. A year from now, you'll either have maintained forward movement and be dramatically ahead, or you'll have started and stopped repeatedly and be roughly where you are. The difference is sustainability, not initial enthusiasm. Start where you are today. Sustain forward movement from wherever you are tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Consistency over time creates extraordinary results from ordinary beginnings. Sustain forward movement from wherever you are. Maintain effort through difficulty. Trust the process. Let consistent direction over time create the distance traveled. we've explored 10 principles for starting where you are and working with what you have. Accepting your actual starting point. Using current resources, however limited. Building momentum from small beginnings. Developing skills while taking action. Creating opportunities rather than waiting. Leveraging unique circumstances. Making progress despite imperfect conditions. Turning limitations into advantages. Building on small wins. And sustaining forward movement over time. These aren't just theoretical ideas. They're practical approaches that work. Used consistently, they enable progress from any starting point toward any worthwhile goal. But here's what matters most. Understanding these principles changes nothing. Only applying them creates progress. You can know everything in this audiobook and still be stuck in the same place if you don't act on it. So the question isn't whether you understand. It's whether you'll apply. Whether you'll actually start from where you are. Whether you'll actually work with what you have. Whether you'll actually build despite limitations. Most people won't. They'll understand the ideas, agree with them, maybe even feel motivated briefly. Then they'll go back to waiting for better circumstances, better resources, better timing. They'll keep waiting while time passes and opportunities fade. You can be different. You can actually start. You can actually apply these principles. You can actually build from your current position. Let me remind you of something crucial. Your current position, however disadvantaged, is still a position from which movement is possible. You have something to work with. Maybe not much, maybe not ideal, but something. And something is enough to start. Think about where you are right now. You have some time, maybe not much, but some. You have some money, maybe very little, but some. You have some skills, maybe basic, but some. You have access to information. You have yourself, your effort, your creativity, your persistence. These are real resources, not abundant, but real. These resources, used fully and wisely, are sufficient to begin, not to complete, not to achieve everything immediately, but to begin, to take first steps, to start building momentum, to create initial results, to prove that progress is possible. And once you begin, once you build initial momentum, once you create first small wins, you're in different position. Not dramatically different immediately, but measurably different. You have evidence you can point to, experience you can build on, momentum you can maintain. Each stage enables next stage. 6 months of starting where you are and building from there will put you in fundamentally different position. Not because circumstances will have improved dramatically, though they might have, but because you'll have built something real, created actual results, developed genuine capabilities, accumulated concrete progress. A year of this approach will create transformation that seems impossible from your current position. You'll look back and barely recognize where you started, not because of lucky breaks or sudden advantages, because of consistent forward movement from wherever you were. But this only happens if you start. If you stop waiting for ideal conditions and begin working with actual conditions. If you stop comparing your beginning to others' middles and focus on your own next step. If you stop making excuses about limitations and start leveraging what you have. Here's what I want you to do. Today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when conditions improve. Today. First, accept where you actually are. Look at your situation honestly. See your resources clearly. Acknowledge your limitations frankly. This is your starting point. Not ideal, maybe not fair, but real. Accept it fully. Second, identify what you can do today, with what you have today. Not what you wish you could do. What you actually can do. However small, however imperfect. What's genuinely possible right now. Third, do that thing. Take that action. Create that result. Build that momentum. Not perfectly. Not impressively. Just really. Make something happen. Prove that movement is possible. Fourth, do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after. Small, consistent actions accumulate into substantial results. The compound effect of daily movement from wherever you are creates dramatic distance traveled over time. Let me tell you what will happen if you do this. Initially, progress will feel slow. Results will seem insignificant. You'll be tempted to quit because you're not seeing dramatic change quickly. Push through this phase. Keep showing up. Keep taking action. Keep building. Around week 3 or 4, you'll notice something shifting. The action becomes easier. The momentum becomes real. Small results start appearing. You'll feel the difference between stuck and moving. By month 2, progress becomes obvious. You've built something real from small beginnings. You've proven the approach works. You'll have evidence that starting where you are actually creates forward movement. By month 6, you'll be in fundamentally different position, not at your ultimate destination, but measurably, provably, undeniably further ahead. You'll have capabilities you didn't have, results you hadn't created, evidence you couldn't point to before. The 6-month version of you will hardly recognize the starting version, but only if you start, only if you apply, only if you actually work with what you have from where you are. The alternative is continuing to wait, continuing to wish, continuing to compare, continuing to make excuses, continuing to stay stuck while time passes. 6 months will pass either way. A year will pass either way. 5 years will pass either way. The only question is what you'll have built during that time. Will you have started from where you were and built something substantial? Or will you still be waiting for better conditions to start? Your circumstances might never be ideal. Your resources might stay limited. Your timing might remain imperfect. These realities don't determine whether you succeed. Your response to them does. Start where you are, however disadvantaged, however limited, however late, however imperfect. Start anyway. Work with what you have, however insufficient it seems, however modest, however basic. Use it anyway. Build from your actual position, not your wished-for position, not your imagined ideal position, your real, current, actual position. This is how progress happens. This is how ordinary beginnings lead to extraordinary results. This is how people with nothing build something. This is how late starters finish strong. This is how limitations become launchpads, not through waiting for better conditions, through working with current conditions, not through having advantages, through leveraging disadvantages, not through perfect starts, through starting imperfectly and improving continuously. You have everything you need to begin. You don't have everything you'll need to finish, but you have everything needed for starting. That's enough. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You're capable of taking that step today, from exactly where you are, with exactly what you have. Start where you are. Learn to work with what you have. Build from here. Begin now.